For today's Consciously Open conversation, I am joined by the UK's highest paid personal coach and a no nonsense, charming as hell man, as defined by GQ magazine, who is also the author of the book From Good to Amazing. Michael Serwa, hello, and thank you for joining me for this Consciously Open conversation. I am very excited to have you, and I'm so
Thank you
looking
for
forward to this beautiful conversation. I have so many questions, and some of the things that I was typing as I was preparing for the conversation was the becoming of Michael Serwa.
the Becoming Michael Serra.
The becoming of Michael Serwa.
I wanted to say thank you for having me, Christina. Then you said something about beautiful conversation, and then I thought, yeah, okay, no pressure now, right? Now everybody's like, okay, this better be beautiful because she said it's gonna be beautiful. I will try not to let the listeners down.
I am sure you won't. And as I was sharing with you before we started recording the conversation, I am aware of your journey. I'm aware of your story. I'm a fan and I love your authenticity and your approach. I know you came to the UK on a bus from Poland many years ago. And now you are such a well known name in the coaching space. And that didn't happen accidentally. And what I would love to start with is for our audience, for our community, for them to learn more about how it actually started and also why coaching. Did you find coaching? Did coaching find you?
It definitely the latter, because it wasn't a case of me looking for the next thing that I could do, and I was considering a bunch of different options, and coaching was one of them. It was very much a case of this grabbing me by the balls and some force telling me how this is something I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I had this realization at the age of 28. So after being in London already for 6 years, I was in fashion retail prior to that, came to London at 22, so 20 years ago. And by 28, I had this calling. It wasn't completely coincidental. It's not like it came out of nowhere because, mind you, I was very much into personal development from the age of 23, right? So I was reading books, working on myself. I wasn't aware of this profession called life coaching. And it was interesting because I decided to become a life coach. And the first thing I did, I went on Google. Now I would use ChatGPT, but this is 2011. I went on Google to actually check what it means. That very thing
Wow.
that I just decided I'm going to do the rest of my life, because it was just like this strong feeling of this is what you're gonna do. This is what you are here to do. And I was like, but
Wow.
what does it actually mean? What does that actually mean? So I Googled it. I was like, this is perfect. And I remember I asked 5 people the closest in my life at that time. So there was my mother, my girlfriend at the time, and 3 best friends, closest friends, whatever. And interesting enough, not a single one of those people, especially my mother back in Poland, knew what life coaching was. But every single one of those people said, "This feels right. Like
Wow.
this is so you, right?" So that was like a confirmation that I'm onto something. And then, sure enough, I've been obsessed with it for the last 13 and a half years. I've been doing it for. The success you were kindly referring to wasn't, as you said, accidental. It wasn't like, oh, I'm so charismatic or whatever, or so smart. I'm not that smart. I really dedicated my life to it. And to this day, this is priority number one. I don't have a family, kids, anything like that. So that helps. I see my clients as my second family after my parents and my sister in Poland. It definitely helps to focus on the thing that you do when there's no like bunch of kids running around. But yeah, it's like, oh, you found your passion. Nah, I didn't find my passion. I'm obsessed with it. And I'm a true believer that if you really want to become truly exceptional at something, I'm not saying I'm truly exceptional. I'm in the process of becoming truly exceptional. And give me another 20 years and I'll be the best coach on the planet. It's like in my head, it already happened. So I'm on my path to that mastery of my craft of
Mhm.
coaching. But I'm a big believer that one cannot become a master at anything unless they are obsessed with that thing that they do. And that never happens by accident. It's repetition, 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 dealing with setbacks, dealing with rejections, taking it on the
Mhm.
chin, and keep on pushing despite of what life is throwing at you. it certainly wasn't a smooth sailing for the last 13 and a half years. I decided to become a coach, and like I had everything figured out. I didn't have a fucking clue. Like I've never run a business before. I've never charged money for anything before. I was working in retail for 6 years, completely unrelated to coaching, obviously. So I had to learn everything, not just coaching itself, but how to get clients, how to build a website, right? Because I didn't have the money to pay someone to do it. I had to learn how to build a website. I had to learn about branding. I had to learn about selling. And I'm still learning those things, right? It's been a phenomenal journey. And I sometimes talk about how I feel extremely lucky, privileged, grateful that at the relatively young age of 28, I was fortunate to find that thing, right? That completely took over my life. And there wasn't, no exaggeration, there wasn't a single, never mind a day, there wasn't a single minute or a single second in my life where I thought, maybe I should do something else, or I would like to do something else. If you offered me, this is going to sound ridiculous to some people, like, really? If you offered me 10 times more money, and I like money, full disclosure, I like money, I like nice things, right? I have a expensive taste from my mother's side. She passed it to me in genes. I said, thanks, mom. So yeah, not so much liking money. I like nice things, and obviously nice things, nice lives that requires money, right? But it's never been about the money. Money came as a byproduct of me following my passion slash obsession, right? But I kid you not, as much as I like nice things and all of that, if you offered me 10 times more money or 100 times more money doing something else, if it's unrelated to coaching, I wouldn't even have to think about it. Like you would get automatic no as an
Mm-hmm.
answer, because yes, I would make much more money and I would probably find creative ways to do something good with this money. And I'm not talking about buying cars. I can't even drive. I don't have a driving
I
license.
need a car in London anyway. There's Uber.
Uh, yeah, especially when you live in central London and you work from home, so you have clients coming to you, right? When I think about things like that, okay, yeah, you're probably doing the right thing. If you would say no to like millions of pounds, if somebody offered to you to do something else, like you probably can feel certain about your decision that you are doing the right thing. So I feel extremely, I know I'm repeating myself, I feel extremely fortunate. I look at my calendar, my diary for the week on a Sunday, let's say, and I look at the names of people that I'm going to be seeing next week, clients, right? And I look at the names of those people, I think about those people, and I think to myself, I get to spend time with those amazing fucking people because my clients are amazing, right? And I get paid for it. And the conversations are designed for their lives to become better as a result of those conversations. And this whole idea of I spend time with those people, we are working towards transformation. More often than not, the transformation occurs over time, and I get paid for it. And this is my life. I mean, the luckiest man on the planet. That's how I feel.
Well,
Sometimes I'm like, I can't believe my luck, you know?
is it luck or is it you following your calling and not giving up when you face setbacks? Because there are many people who question their path, especially when things don't happen, for instance, fast enough.
Overnight.
And
Yeah.
I've spoken to so many founders, and some of them sadly give up prematurely. It's their passion. It's almost like a purpose. And I totally understand, because it's how I feel about what I do. It's almost like a pull. And when you feel the pull, when you feel that pull, that passion, that obsession in your gut, it's part of who you are. It's in your DNA. So how do you even give it up? But sometimes people, when it's too much on the setback side, it is easy to give it up. Have you ever felt that things were getting so hard that you wanted to give it up? And you said you didn't question it, but have you experienced setbacks so challenging that you questioned the path?
Okay, so let me first come back to the very first, one of the first things that you said. How was it a luck or was it hard work? Finding that thing or having that thing find me, that was the lucky bit, right? Because I
Yeah.
had no control over it. It's like talking about my height. Yeah, I'm on the taller side. I can't take credit for it. It's genetics,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I'm just not short. I'm on the taller side. I'm way too short to be in the NBA, which is fine because I don't like to sweat anyway. But I'm on the taller side, but I'm not like, oh, I'm tall. Like, yeah, you didn't have to work for it. It's just genetics. I didn't do anything to find that calling or for coaching to find me. Like I said, I feel lucky that this found me, right? But in terms of getting from that point of finding it to getting to that highest paid life coach in the country that you mentioned in the introduction, it took me 4 years to get there. Yeah, nothing to do with luck. The first 2.5 years was working 7 days a week from
Yeah.
the first minute to the last minute of the day. I put dating on hold. So, like the girlfriend I was with when I came up with the idea, and I was still with her when I started coaching, we broke up 3 months into my coaching journey. And I made a brilliant, looking back, and very important strategic or tactical decision to put my dating on hold. Now,
Mm-hmm.
anyone listening who knows me would recognize that as being a big sacrifice, because people who know me know how much I like to date, right? But because I like it so much, I knew, or I recognized, that out of all things that could prevent me from getting what I need to get to, would be dating, the distraction of dating, right? Waiting for the reply. You know how it is. Like you message someone that you like and they don't
It's
reply
emotional.
immediately. And then it takes your attention away. Then you fall in
Yeah.
love, you miss that person, right? So I strategically put dating on hold for the first 2.5 years. I haven't drank a drop of alcohol. And that's another thing I like a lot, wine. I haven't drunk a drop of alcohol for 2.5 years. I didn't go to any party. The only times where I wasn't physically in London working was for 2 days over Christmas, because my mother would never forgive me if I didn't go to Poland for Christmas for 2 days. So in those 2.5 years, it was head down, working, 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 like doing whatever I had to do. And sure enough, we know from physics about this field called about this thing called momentum,
Mm-hmm.
right? Once I got to that six-figure level, which took me 2 years, I have to say from that point on, it hasn't been that hard anymore because I
Mm-hmm.
was momentum working in my
Mm-hmm.
favor, right? I've used the momentum that I've built, but by applying myself like a crazy person to then add on top of it. And it's because of that, that's the best way I can explain it to myself, to you, to anybody listening. It's because of that, not because of some fucking genius that I'm not, or some unusually high IQ level, which I don't have. It is that extreme amount of hustle and grind that went into this initial stage. And then when I got to that stage, I moved to Mayfair, and then that in itself has helped because, in terms of positions, like,
Yeah.
okay, if this coach is based in Mayfair, maybe he's not shit, right? It's
Yeah.
creating that is
The
creating that
perceived value of the
right, and
brand.
I
Yeah.
knew that I wasn't shit because I knew the results I was getting for clients. But it doesn't. I always say to people, like, it doesn't matter what you know. The only thing that matters is what the market knows. If the market doesn't perceive you as valuable, they will not pay you for your service or for your product. So you can think you are the best singer on the planet, but nobody buys your records, and Spotify says, have you considered picking up drawing? Probably you should maybe reconsider your career as a singer. It's like, doesn't matter what we think. At the end of the day, when it comes to monetizing, it's about the market.
Exactly. You mentioned sacrifice,
Yeah,
which is something that, fortunately or unfortunately, I think sacrifice builds discipline.
yeah,
And you mentioned, we didn't mention directly discipline, but you mentioned sacrifice,
yeah,
hard work, and
yeah,
all those things that are inevitable part of building the brand that you have built. And also, it's not just about the positioning, but also the transformations that you have created for your clients. And I have read your testimonials, and some of them are absolutely amazing. It's one step to build a brand that people perceive as being valuable, but it's a completely different journey to stay in the game and continue to exceed expectations and create those life changing experiences for your clients. And what do you think the key to success is, in your opinion? And that's the first part of the question. The second part is, what does success mean to you? Is there anything that you want to add to all those early stage founders who might be questioning the path? This has been your journey, and I find that those behind the scenes moments, when we open up about them, this is
Yeah,
almost like a how to tool that people can implement to get to where you are as per their definition of success. But
sure.
let's first
Okay,
start with your definition of success, because we all see success differently, right?
sure, sure. And I remember, okay, now it's coming back also like another thing from the previous question was, how do you stay motivated when things are not going your way?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I wanted to address that because I think that's, everything you ask is, I could spend half an hour on each of those questions. I have so many thoughts and ideas, and I think about shit like that a lot, since I don't have 6 kids to look after and 2 wives or anything like that. So of course there were moments when I was like, fuck, this is hard, this is challenging. Or when you're a life coach and you have a session booked in and someone is coming for you to make them feel better about themselves or motivate them sometimes, and you wake up feeling like shit for no particular reason, which I do sometimes, just like, by
Mm-hmm.
shit I mean not hangover or anything like that, but like shit as in just like sad, like, it's like having a human experience. And then I'm like, fucking, now it's 7 o'clock. I feel like, oh my God, I just want to stay in bed, not because I'm sick. And then someone coming at 9, and I'm like, oh my God, if I could be someone who cancels meetings, which I'm not, I would love to cancel this one. But then the person comes in, and here's the thing, something I read a while ago is like, how the best thing we can do when we feel bad about not ourselves, as in we don't like ourselves, but like when we're in a bad mood, is to trying to do something good for another person. Because then what
Mm-hmm.
happens is we shift that attention from this internal struggle that we are going through, and through that act of kindness, or just even like that doesn't have to be act of kindness as in like I give something to someone, but giving someone attention and talking
Mm-hmm.
about their problem. When you think about it, we can't be thinking about how sad we fucking feel and trying to help someone with their problem at the same time. We can't
Mm-hmm.
can't do those two things simultaneously, right? So there were a few, more than few, over the years. There were many times I was like, oh my fucking God, not today. I'm just like, no, it's just not my day. I didn't sleep well. I slept well, but like, I don't know. I feel sad. I feel lonely, whatever the fuck. And every single time, without fail, a client would come in, or prospective client would come in, and just like magic, whatever I was feeling before, it would just evaporate. And I
Mm-hmm.
would just be like, and I'll be like, how did I go from 1 minute being like that, feeling flat, to just, and those are the times where I'm being reminded that, yeah, I'm definitely doing the right thing. But coming back to your original question, there's never been a time, no matter what was happening, where I was thinking about career change. And the comparison I could use here is how, when we are in a romantic relationship, that someone we are truly in love with, someone who is really right for us, sometimes we fucking hate them, or at the very least dislike them, but we always love them at the same time, right? So the love is that underlying thing that's always there, even when we fucking want to like
I love
strangle,
that. I
right?
absolutely love that.
Right? I want to fucking strangle you, but I still love you. So I want to strangle you, but if there was like a
Mm-hmm.
danger here, I would still protect you from that danger, even though in this very point in time, so that's how I feel sometimes about my profession. Sometimes it's like I want to strangle not someone, but like the profession, the job. But it's like, no, no, Michael, this is your true love. This is the only thing. Like, I've been in 5 relationships in total over the years, and the longest lasted 3 years. So I don't have a great track record when it comes to commitment to not people. There are people in my life that I've had in my life for like decades. So it's not about the lack of commitment or loyalty towards people, but when it comes to romantic relationships, I'm a sprinter. I'm not a marathon runner, right? But but when
That's
but when it
another podcast episode which we must
Part,
record,
yeah,
as it's
part two,
going to
part
be
two, part
part
two,
two.
part two. That's how
Exactly.
I love life. The coaching, it's a marathon for me. It's not a sprint. And I've never run a marathon, and I never fucking will. I'm not interested in running and sweating, like I said before. Any physical activities, I'm not up for it really. But I know from just reading about it, speaking to runners, the pain they go through to complete a marathon. So like,
Hmm.
oh, let's go and run for fucking 3 hours. No, like there are those moments when they want to stop. There are those moments when they want to quit. But the idea is to love that thing that you do more than you dislike the things which are inevitable on your journey. That are inevitable. There's always going to be like, to this day, it's not oh because I'm successful now. It's like to this day there are struggles, and my team knows about those struggles. I'm not going to talk about them
Yeah.
now. There are struggles. There's at any level. Like I have a client right now who's one of the 20 wealthiest people in the country, and the average person, not you, but the average person, is like, why someone so successful need a fucking life coach? Because you're like, he's yeah, because just because you have so much money doesn't mean that everything is fucking rosy and you have everything
Yeah.
figured out. He's done better than 99.9999999% of people on the planet when it comes to money. But obviously, the other areas of life as well. He definitely didn't
Yeah.
come to me for help as to how to make more money. He knows more about it than literally everybody else that I know in my life. We work in other things, but everyone is going through the fucking struggles. Everyone faces difficulties. Everyone faces rejections. Well, not everyone. The person who never leaves the fucking house, who never fucking opens the mouth, never fucking says what they want to say, and never
Yeah.
speaks to anyone. This is the only type of person who doesn't face rejection, who doesn't face obstacles, because they don't do anything. So if you want to avoid rejection, if you want to avoid setbacks and obstacles, yes, just do nothing. Do nothing and say nothing. But if you open your mouth, if you speak to another human being, if you're trying to start a business, if you're trying to get a job, if you're trying to date someone, there's going to be challenges. And it's trying to find that thing or that person, if we're talking about romantic relationships, where, like I said before, the love for it or for that person is so strong that no matter what happens, you always find a way to figure things out, right?
Very interesting. I have spoken to so many people when it comes to overcoming challenges and setbacks, especially when it comes to our business journeys. And for the first time, I'm hearing the word love, the love for what you do, and also the love for supporting others and helping them, because ultimately, this is the energy hack, right? When you see the impact, when you see that client, when you see that transformation, that energy is back. So the motivation is back, and
100%.
that almost gives you more motivation. So when we face those kind of difficult moments, those challenges, if only we reconnect to our calling, to our purpose, and to that love for whether it's service, whether it's solving a problem,
Whatever it
this
is.
if this is our calling, if this truly is our calling, this is enough to help us overcome the challenge, because the very same mind that perceives something as a challenge can solve it, right?
100%. 100%. Yeah. And coming back to your original question, for me personally, success is not the money, not even, I'm just being honest, surprise, surprise, not even the amazing transformations I see unfolding in front of my eyes. That's my drag. Like some people like heroin, some people like
Yeah.
crack. I like to see the transformations of my clients. It just gives me, I can't explain why it hasn't been a choice. I just take enormous amount of pleasure from seeing my
Hmm.
clients, especially given, like I said, I think before we started recording, I was saying like how nice my clients are. I wish everyone well. Even people I don't like, I still want them to do
Yeah.
well. But especially if I really fucking love the people I work with, I want to see them succeed. I want them to improve, to transform. I want to see them happy. And if I can facilitate that process of them going from A to B, and I can take not for like for my ego even, but if I can take some credit for it, that gives me, and I see that like that really makes me happy, right? So for me, success is the ability to do what I love and getting paid enough for it, so I don't need to worry about money. I'm far from being
Mm-hmm.
I will be, but I'm not chasing that. I know it's going to happen, but I'm not chasing. I'm far from being a multi-millionaire comparing to some of my clients, especially. There's no even comparison. But I'm fortunate in a sense that I get to do what I love and get paid enough for it, not to have to worry about money for me as well as for my family in Poland, so I can support my family in Poland with the money that I make. And it's just feeling happy on a day-to-day basis. For me, that's the
Yeah.
ultimate purpose of life, is to do whatever you need to do with whoever you need to do it with, however you want to go about it, so you feel happy more often than not. I'm not saying I always feel happy. I don't. Like I said before, I sometimes wake up feeling
Yeah.
not
Well,
deeply
you're a
unhappy.
human. You're a
Yeah,
human,
yeah,
right?
yes, I'm a fucking human. I know I have a big mouth and I talk a big game and I think very highly of myself. People say, "Oh, you have such a big ego." I know. Or you have such a big head. Like, I know it's hard for me to fucking get a hat that fits. I know that. Like you're trying to hurt me. I'm in agreement with you. But just because I'm all of those things, right? I'm quote unquote full of myself. And by that, I have a great relationship with myself. By that, I accept myself fully with all my strengths and weaknesses, while I'm trying to turn my weaknesses not into strengths, but while I'm trying to eliminate my weaknesses. I know what they
Mm-hmm.
are. I know what I need to work on at any given point. It's not like I'm 42. I've done 19 years of personal development. I'm a life coach. I make enough money. I live in Mayfair. I'm a finished product. Far from it.
Yeah.
I will never be a fucking finished product. I didn't know him personally, unfortunately, but I'm sure if we ask Buddha or we ask Jesus, I didn't know these guys personally, unfortunately. We didn't play in the same fucking soccer team. If I asked Mohammed on the last day before they died, are you a finished product? Do you know everything? I'm 100% certain that every single one of them would say, no, no, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. Because
Life
that's the,
would,
like, you never
yeah.
arrive. Yes, you
You
never
never
arrive
arrive.
of
And
knowing
this is,
everything.
oh my God, I absolutely love that. It's such an interesting statement. You never arrive. And if we think of success as a destination, it's not, it's just a level. And there is always a next
100%.
level. So if you
100%.
aren't passionate about, there is this talk in the online space that following your passion is a bad advice. And I'm like, what would you rather do? Be miserable doing something
Yeah.
you don't enjoy?
Yeah, no, no,
No, the
I'm with you. I'm with you. I know what you mean because I hear people say that sometimes. Now, for everyone listening, because like I said before, I feel extremely fortunate that at the relatively young age of 28, that thing called coaching, in my case, found me. I feel extremely fortunate. I cannot take credit for it, like I said, because it wasn't like, "Ooh, I did this thing. I worked with a coach because I was so smart to think, oh, I need a coach and coach will help me figure this out. And on the back of it, I became a coach." No, I can't take credit for it. No more than I can take credit for the fact that I'm 6'1". Like I can't take credit for it. It's just, I was just fortunate, right? Not that the height is a big fucking deal. I think it's overrated. Anyway, that's a different point. I recognize that not everyone, in fact, most people did not have that privilege of discovering the true passion. My
yeah,
message to you guys listening, if you haven't found it yet, first of all, don't feel bad about it. I didn't feel
yeah.
bad because I didn't know what I wanted to do for the first 28 years of my life. I was doing what I could. I had hobbies back then and interests. Chasing girls was one of them. Um, getting pissed, whatever, like just doing what 20-year-olds do, 25-year-olds do, right?
I
Now
never
I don't
did
need
that, but anyway.
say again. Say again.
I never did that. I'm the boring type. Walk in the park and that's
Well,
it.
listen, we need more nuns. You can always become a nun.
Right?
There has to be a state of equilibrium in the universe. So for every
Mhm.
rock star, for every crazy person like me, for every degenerate like me, there has to be someone a bit more saint like you. Yeah. Anyway, so going back to what I was saying, to those guys listening who are like, okay, Michael, yeah, fucking, I get it. Yeah, follow your passion, but like, I don't know what my passion is. You found it at 28, you lucky bastard. But I'm 40. I work in a bank. They pay me well. I have a nice car. I
Yeah.
have a nice house. I don't love what I do, and I hear you. I empathize with you because that's me for the first 20 years of my life. My message
Yeah.
to you is never stop looking. And don't
Exactly.
believe those motherfuckers who are trying to tell you it's not about finding your passion. That's like saying it's not about it's not about finding and being with someone you love. Just be with someone who is good enough. What kind of fucking advice is that? That's no disrespect to India.
Transactional.
No disrespect to Indians. I know it's like a big fucking Indian thing. Oh, arranged marriages. Like, what kind of fucking
Not just
idea?
in India, yeah.
Guys,
It's a yeah.
guys, come on, Indians, come on. I know because the Indians that I know are either older but more modern, if you will, in the
Yeah.
thinking, or they're just the younger generation. I know a lot of Indians, quite a few of my clients are Indians actually at any given point. I think Indians might have a thing for me, Chinese, Chinese, not
Good
so much, but a
Good.
lot of
This
Indian clients.
podcast is called the Consciously Open Conversation Series, and we're not editing out of it. So I love the authenticity, and I echo that. Keep looking because it's who you
Yeah,
are. It's who you're meant to be as well. And I think if you think
yeah,
you said something at the very beginning of the conversation, and I absolutely love that. And as I'm listening to you, strangely enough, I already have questions dropping into my mind, and I forget the original question, but there was something that you said which I absolutely loved, and I want to repeat that. You said, I just kept doing it. These weren't the exact words, but you kept doing it,
yes,
and
yes,
just and
yes.
money appeared. It didn't just appear,
Followed,
but money
followed,
followed. Money
followed.
followed. And
Yes,
I
yes,
think
yes. That's exactly what happened.
sometimes, but we think it's almost like, again, with all this raising and like funding, and again, I'm in the startup world, right? And sometimes we think we want the chicken first instead of actually really getting our hands dirty and really
Yeah,
figuring it out and doing the thing. And then of course money will follow because there is an energetic exchange, there is an it's value exchange,
100%.
right? When you are giving value, even if
Yeah,
you aren't charging at this moment of time, the quantum field, the universe has its way of giving that back to you,
100%. 100%.
but you have to take that first step.
100%. The world will, how to put it eloquently, the world will reward you in proportion to the amount of value you bring to the marketplace, right?
Yeah.
But Christina, I kid you not, when I first started and I was charging £20 per session back in 2011, right? My first 20 clients paid £20 per session, right? I had a full coaching practice at £20 per session before I felt,
Wow.
you know what? I think I'm good enough by now to charge £50 per session because I never, to this day, I never want to feel like I'm overcharging someone. So I always
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that I charge in proportion, or I charge based on how good I am as a coach. So when I first
Yeah.
started, I was clueless. Now I'm less clueless, so I can justify charging a little bit more. My clients listening to this, a little bit more than £20 per session, you
Well,
motherfucker.
you build confidence as you go, and it's
100%. How else? How else? It wasn't like
yeah.
at 28, like, I'm Michael Serwa. I've done 5 years of personal development. Pay me £1,000 for my coaching because I'm so amazing. I
But it's
wasn't
also,
amazing.
I believe in it's strange. I think it's almost like also we define our own value in a sense based on feedback from clients, but also based on the whole experience. And I
Yeah,
think that many entrepreneurs, even like service entrepreneurs, they struggle with that. And I always tell them just start doing the thing. And that's probably the
100%.
scariest thing because sometimes
100%.
they put themselves out there on social media and they hear crickets. And I had a coaching session with the founder, and she said, it's been 3 months and we've not made a single sale. And I said, okay, what are the avenues that you're using to reach the right people who need that particular service that you offer? There is always
Sure.
a way around it if you aren't giving up. But I don't want to turn this into a business conversation. Auto business is one of my favorite topics. I just love business. That's part
Yeah.
three. That's part three.
Yeah. Yeah.
Part two, relationships.
Busy
Part
schedule
three,
for us,
business.
Christina.
There is something that I really want to talk about. And out of all the questions I have prepared, if there is one I must ask you, this
Sure.
is about you being so unapologetically yourself, so authentic. And I have been following your journey since I became a certified coach in 2017. And that's how many years now? 8 years? Maths is not a strength of mine. So, yeah, 8 years,
You
right?
did well there. I'm not a math expert, but I did
And
a, yeah, I that checks out. Yeah, 8 years.
8 years, and I have been
Yeah,
following your journey. I did share with you. I read your website, and you were an
yeah,
inspiration. And the reason why you were an inspiration and why you stood out was because you were yourself, and I found that really refreshing. And
yeah,
so many people, we try to be like someone, to mimic someone else's success or brand, thinking
yeah,
that this is how we do it, but actually it takes so much courage and confidence to be yourself, especially in the online space. And I see these comments on LinkedIn, and I see how you answer them. Sometimes I laugh. Sometimes I'm reading the comments and I laugh. You get a lot of criticism. So
yeah.
how do you have the guts? Like, where does this confidence come from? Has it been through experience, or have you always been like that, just
Sure.
unapologetically yourself everywhere?
Sure. I will come back to your question in a second. I just, for the people who are like, hold on, he was saying something and he never finished that thing, and they might be curious about that thing. I just wanted to quickly say how I honestly was just as happy when I was charging £20 per session and when I made £34,000 in my first year as a coach in 2012. I was just as happy, if not happier than I am now, charging a little bit more, making a little bit more. And again, that's another proof for me that it's never been, when I say, oh, this guy who lives in a penthouse in Mayfair with a fucking Rolex on,
Yeah,
not now, but like sometimes, this guy is talking about it's never been about the money, like he's a hypocrite. I'm sure some
yeah,
people would think that, but there are people who have known me then, and I know myself. Honestly, if anything, I was even happier there. I'm happy now, but I was even happier there than in that period because there was also the novelty of it. It
yeah,
felt like a new girlfriend. Oh my God, somebody just paid me £50 per session.
yeah,
And all I did was like, I talked to this person for an hour or two. It's like, oh my God, this is the best profession in the world. I'm so lucky. I'm so happy. Anyway, so now coming back to your latest question, I've always been on a confidence side
yeah,
from a young age. I've always been the kid who would stand up to the parents, which is quite common, but I would also stand up to teachers, resulting in some teachers absolutely hated my guts. Like the bad teachers, the teachers that nobody liked, but everybody was just like sucking up to them or just keeping their mouth
yeah.
shut. I would stand
Especially
up
in
to them.
Eastern Europe.
Yeah, it was like one or two, like they would hate my fucking guts, not because I was like a bad kid or anything like that, but I was just like, excuse me, miss, respectfully, what you just said that doesn't make sense in front of the whole class. So great teachers, because I would say similar things to great teachers, and the great teachers, the good teachers would be like, oh, my bad, let me explain it better. Oh, thank you so much. So that teacher would be like, this guy, there might be some future for him, right? But like the teachers who were insecure, or the same with bosses when I had jobs, the good bosses, I could be like, respectfully, John, I don't get it. Would you mind to? Okay, yeah, Maki, yeah, no problem. And then every now and then, somebody would take it as a personal attack, which it's never been my intention, right? Like when I challenge people on shit, and I
Yeah,
do that on a regular basis, my intention is never to hurt somebody's feelings. My intention is never to offend anyone. I'm just being honest. I'm gonna link it to your question. I'm just being honest. I'm just being a true representation of myself. I
yeah.
just say what I think. And now, by the
Hmm.
way, be like, oh, you are so unfiltered on social media. Motherfucker, if you knew what I'm really thinking sometimes, it's like what you see is the filtered, slightly filtered version of what I really want to say sometimes, because I also want to respect the platform. And
Yeah.
LinkedIn, Instagram didn't, but LinkedIn did give me two or three warnings. Not warnings, but like
Really?
two or three times LinkedIn would, not my posts, but two or three times LinkedIn would, and they, in credit to them, they would send me a message, and like automatic message. It wasn't like a human being, it was like
Yeah,
algorithm thing, just saying that your comment goes against our policy, whatever. So we had to hide it. You can appeal, which I didn't, because I was like, yeah, fair enough. It's just like me
yeah,
being me. It's like you go to somebody's house, you respect the fucking rules and get the fuck out.
yeah,
So LinkedIn is a house. I enter their house and I gotta play by the rules, or they'll kick me out. So I respect that. But to your question, I've always been on the confident side, and now imagine this already confident kid Getting into personal development at the age of 23, my mother, bless her, gave me, sorry, it wasn't my mother, it was my ex at the time who was reading The Secret. You know The Secret, the
I
book,
love that book.
which
Yeah.
was a bestseller in 2006.
Yeah.
So I'm in retail, I'm in London already, my
Yeah.
second year in London, and my ex at the time, Patricia, she's coming home with this book called The Secret. And I'm like, what's that about? Anyway, long story short, I read the book myself, and that was my what's the term, gateway drug. That was the thing that got me into personal development, and that's 19 years ago. And once I got into it, and I never came out of it. So
Yeah.
now what I was trying to say is like how I was already on a confidence side to begin with, as in outspoken, as in quite brash, as in direct, as in not being afraid of people. And now on top of that, you add 90 years of personal development. And now on top of that, you add all the coaching I received and all the
Yeah.
advisors I have, all those intelligent people, smarter than me people I have in my life, then you're gonna end up with someone like myself who's like, hey, you
Yeah.
know what?
Y-
I know who I am because I spent all this time learning about who I am. I know who I am. I
Yeah.
know what I want, and I'm just gonna say what I think the way I want to say it, and you, whoever is
Yeah.
reading it or listening to it, or me or whatever, you can either take it or leave it. If you like
Yeah.
it, that's wonderful. Maybe we should do something together. If you don't like it, absolutely okay, because
Yeah.
you liking it or not liking it makes no difference to how I feel
Yeah.
about myself.
Absolutely love that. It's all the work that you've done on yourself throughout the years to reach that level of self confidence, self respect, self love. If we can call it even self love,
All of
because you
the
need to
100%. Oh, I
fundamentally,
love
I,
Christina. I love
interestingly enough,
myself.
I don't like, yeah, and I don't like the word self love. I'm talking about self love next week. As a word, I don't like it, but I think it's so important.
There's this quote from someone, and it goes like this: if you don't think you are great, why the hell should anybody
Yeah.
else? I think I'm great. Do I think I'm great for everybody? Absolutely fucking not. Am I trying to be great for everybody? No. In the most simple terms possible, I need to like myself. So I need to do what I need to do in order for me to like myself, for me to go to sleep every night and not to feel like a piece of shit. And this is going
Yeah.
to be different for everyone. If somebody's okay, I don't know, stealing from people and they can sleep at night, I think you're a piece of shit. But like, if you can, I couldn't do that. Some people can do the job they hate and still sleep well at night. I couldn't do that. I would spend the rest of my life trying to find a thing that, if I don't love it, at least something I dislike it. Some people are stuck in relationships without love for 5 years,
Yeah.
10 years, 20 years. I would never fucking do that. I have no judgment towards those people. I don't think I'm better than those people. I just know myself. Like I said, I've been in 5 relationships, and every single time when relationship got to the point when I didn't have feelings for this person anymore, I would leave them peacefully. There's no drama. There was
Yeah.
no go fuck yourself. I'm still in touch with the last two girlfriends, the most recent ones. I could bump into any of my exes on the street tomorrow and there'll be no awkward conversation because the way in which we ended things in a civilized way. And just because something concluded the way it did, or just because you had a job and now you want to change careers, that's not a reflection on that person or on that job. We change, we evolve. And
Yeah.
who knows? I said, I want to do it for the rest of my life, but who knows? How can I know for sure? Maybe I'm going to wake up tomorrow and not want to be a coach anymore. I think it's highly unlikely. And my clients who pay up front will be a little bit annoyed. I would still,
I don't
I would,
think,
yeah, I would still finish with them. But I just don't see, like, 13 and a half years. I
no,
think it's
it's not gonna happen. So coming back to
yeah,
authenticity, it's accepting yourself for who you are, and you can only do that if you know yourself. And you mentioned your strong sides. You
yeah.
also know, I wouldn't call them weaknesses, but sides of yourselves
No,
that
it's not
perhaps you wouldn't
weaknesses. No, no,
call.
no, no. We cannot. You call it however you want to call it. I call it weaknesses. I like to call things for what they are. I don't want to make it easier for myself by not referring to a weakness as as a weakness and use a softer word because of course you do, Arnold Schwarzenegger, right?
Yes.
I know his life story very well. There was a period where in his early 20s, he was acutely aware that his calf muscles were disproportionately small relative to the rest of his body. So he purposely was wearing shorts at the gym instead of long trousers to hide those small, relatively small calves, because he wanted to be constantly reminded that this is his weakness and he's embarrassed about it because his chest was already massive, his arms, his thighs, but his calves were disproportionately small. So he would purposely wear, for God knows how long, I don't know how long it took him to fix it, let's say a year, shorts basically, in order to be constantly reminded that this is my weakness and this is what I need to work on,
But this is
right?
this radical self-acceptance, this radical self-love, radical authenticity that actually it's almost like declares, this is me, take it or leave it. And yes, some people might find that triggering, and of course they may find that triggering because they themselves may not have the courage or the self-awareness to be themselves,
The capacity,
right?
yeah,
Or
or
the
the
capacity. And I
yeah,
think again, coming back to business very slightly before we end with my final question, it's your competitive advantage. There is no one out there just like you, but you do not become more like who you are unless you spend time getting to know yourself, what lights you up, who it is that you are, what do you want to shift, what do you want to not shift. There are certain things, weaknesses, for instance, that I find in myself, and I actually call them insecurities, and I'm not afraid to admit them. I actually love my insecurities. They make me a human, they make me who I am. And some of them I just admit this is an insecurity and it is what it is. There are certain
sure.
things about me that I would love to change, but I cannot change, right?
Mm,
So it, that self-acceptance and that self-love, and I think it's so important, and I am so glad that we had this conversation. And I find that a lot of people will find themselves perhaps in your earlier self, like younger self. And if we were to give this podcast episode a title, I would definitely call it The Becoming of Michael Serwa, because you spoke about the journey, what it took you, and how you see success. And I find that very inspiring. I find that very inspiring. I would like you to share, the last question is not a question, actually. I would like you to share your favorite quote. A quote that's, you probably have many, but if there was one quote that inspires you, that motivates you, what's your favorite inspirational quote?
sure. As you said yourself, there's a bunch of quotes that I like. Sometimes I look at the quote and I'm thinking, fuck, I wish I came up with it myself first. I wish I could claim it as my own because it's just so beautifully put, but I can't because somebody else did it before me. But the biggest influence on me on my personal development journey was a guy called Jim Rohn. He passed away in 2009, I believe. He was this wonderful man who grew up on the farm in Idaho, like normal parents, normal everything. And then he got into network marketing. He made some money, and then he became a motivational speaker, basically. But motivational speaker, even though he was American, there was no hype. This wasn't Tony Robbins type, ran to the back of the room setup. Just a seminar, extremely kind, extremely human, extremely approachable friend. Like you can tell watching clips or the whole speeches on YouTube how much his audience loved him. And he had this unique ability to tell stories and share pearls of wisdom in a way that would be so easy to digest, right? And people could sit there for 8 hours and not get bored because he was just such a eloquent, articulate guy and funny and just a good guy, right? I've been very much influenced by him in my way of thinking. When I started as a coach, there's this one recording. If you, anyone listening, if you put in Google Jim Rohn, ROHN, if you put in YouTube Jim Rohn 1981. There's a 2-hour recording of like his best, like that's Jim Rohn at his peak in that 1981 recording. He said one of the many amazing things he said, and I could give you 10 quotes of his, but my favorite is something on the lines of learn to be happy with what you have in the pursuit of what you want. Because when you think about it, unless we learn to be happy with what we have in the pursuit of what we want, we will never be happy. Because there's always going to be some level of pursuit. We're going to be always trying to pursue something,
Yes.
hoping that next thing or that bigger thing will make us happy. If you cannot learn to be happy, let's use an example of a coach, right? If you cannot be happy charging 20 pounds per session as a coach, don't think for a second that when you get to the point when you can charge 2,000 pounds or 5,000 pounds per session, suddenly you will become happy. Because I know that if for some reason I could no longer charge for coaching, let's say coaching became illegal to charge for, right? Like in this highly improbable, impossible situation, guess what? I would still coach because that's my
Yeah.
fucking drag. As I said before, that's my fucking drag. I would figure out how to
Yeah.
make money somewhere else to pay the bills, but I was just as happy coaching for free, or pretty much for free, 20 pounds per session. That's almost free, right? Not free, but almost free, as I am now. I'm not thinking, okay, I need to double my income and then I'm going to be happy. I need to move to a bigger place and then I'm going to be happy. I need to, I don't know, get a six pack and that's when I'm going to be happy. So, no, like I choose to be happy today. Like I said before, obviously it fluctuates, right? I'm still a fucking human. If we can learn to be happy with what we have in the
Yeah.
pursuit of what we want, that's the fucking key. And this is an important bit for
Yeah.
the ambitious people who, when they hear this quote sometimes, say, oh, hold on, Michael, but like, I'm an ambitious person. If I'm going to be too happy with what I have, where will I get the motivation from to pursue the bigger and better things? And I'm saying, no, and I'm sure Jim Rohn didn't mean it like that because he's been pushing himself and growing his entire life. So I know I don't know it from him, personally, but I gathered that they are not mutually exclusive. The idea is like, okay, I'm happy now, and I still want to pursue those things, not because I believe or think that those other things will make me happier, just because I want them. Nothing
Yeah.
to do with happiness, just because I want them, just because I can have them. But I'm gonna appreciate what I have today. If you are healthy enough to be able to watch this or to listen to this, if you have access to internet that allows you
Yeah.
to fucking listen to this, to watch this, if you have fucking two legs, two arms, and you can see, I had a client who was blind, you already have a fucking advantage. So I'm not saying,
Exactly.
hey, don't do anything else. As long as you are alive and you have two legs and two arms, like you should be happy. That's not what I'm saying. There's so many things. If you just take the time and think about it and allow the space to think about it, you will find way more things to like about yourself and things you are
Yeah.
good at than things you don't like about yourself you're not so good
Yeah.
at. We all are good at some things and shit at some other things, myself included, right? But too many people, unfortunately, put too much emphasis on the weaknesses as opposed to strengths,
As opposed to strengths. Exactly.
which will inevitably lead to an unhappy life, right?
Yeah.
Because I could be spending all day, every day, wishing that my hair was better, wishing that,
That's
that
fixable.
sorry.
That's fixable, no?
But
The
like
hair.
I already had hair transplant. Don't worry, it was worse before. But like they still shit hair. Like Polish, Eastern European men don't have good hair. We are not Italians or Greeks who are just like, I look at them, it's like I hate you for this hair because they do this, If we look for a thing that we want to be unhappy about ourselves, we'll always find one. My recommendation is stop looking.
How do people find you? That's your website. I would also
Yeah.
love for people to go get your book from good to amazing. And where do they find that?
Very simple, michaelserwa.com, and then all the information is there. There's a page called book. And when you go to that page, that will give you all different options in which you can get my book. Amazon, Apple. You can get it for free on Spotify if you prefer the audio version. Any platform you can think of, you can find my book on there. So there's a paperback version, there's a Kindle version, electronic version, whatever, Apple. And there's an audio version as well, narrated by me. It's a short book. Just to give you an idea, the audio recording is 1 hour, 47 minutes only, to be exact, right? Read by me. So if you're annoyed with my voice, then just get the paperback. But if you don't mind, if you don't mind my voice, then, but mind you, thank God for that. There was a producer next to me in another room, and every time I would mispronounce the word, because obviously English is not my first language, so I said, listen, make sure that I sound in a way that Brits can fucking understand me. Don't let me butcher this amazing language. So recording of a 2 hour long book took 4 hours because we're like, Michael, sorry, can you say that sentence again? Can you say that word again? So it was quite a process. Obviously, the idea is to be easily understood. And there's no jargon in my book. There's no big words in my book. It's a book written in a very conversational style, right? There's nothing, I'm not trying to reinvent anything there. It's simple. Also, on my
Mhm.
website, one can find links to all sorts of different interviews that I've done, whether it's a podcast type or like just regular magazines. Some people like to read, some people like to listen, some people like to watch. There is something for everyone who is interested to learn more. And then as it stands, I might change my mind tomorrow, but as it stands, I've been posting quite regularly on both LinkedIn and Instagram. So if anyone is interested in learning more about my thoughts and that authenticity you were talking about, which very much is a common thread of all of my posts, that's definitely something that one can find there as well. That authentic voice,
Mhm.
that speaking from the heart, if you will, no matter how many strangers this might upset, which it does sometimes, as you said.
We might think about part two, as I'm quite curious about the relationship bit, but
Of
let's keep
course,
that
of
to
course.
another
I- I'm,
conversation.
I'm,
Let's
I'm in. I'm in. Any topic, life or business related, I'm your guy. We can have a whole series of conversations if you want. In case you haven't noticed, I have a thing or two to say. Talking is not a problem. One of the things I'm working on right now, we're talking about weaknesses, right? We're talking about weaknesses. One of the things I'm currently working on, and I find it really fucking difficult. One of my biggest challenges when it comes to personal development my whole life is to talk less and listen more. Yeah. So
well,
obviously, when I'm doing an interview like this, like when you ask me questions, like, yeah, you expect me to talk. But when I meet people for the initial consultations and then when people come for coaching, yes, they want me to speak, but for me to always make sure that I gather all the info that I need, that I really get to the bottom of what the problem is. And the only way to do that is by listening, right? We didn't talk about it, but that's if you ask me, like, okay, what's the current challenge in your life or what's the biggest thing you're working on? That's what I'm working on right now.
that's
Not more money, not more women, not more wine, not more holidays, not
that's what,
more
I think this conversation can easily continue for another 5 hours. And
easily
we
until
are
one of
now
us
going to
passes
wrap up.
out.
And I
Passes out.
promise everyone who is going to be watching this or listening or watching this conversation, we promise part two. And with that being said, I shall see you soon.